Welcome, all fellow wannabes. Welcome to the show. You are listening to Wannabe Music Reviews. Today is a very special episode. We are about to give our hot takes, and I am joined by the RumblePack himself, Chris LePack.
Hey,
Chris,
what's good?
how you feeling, bro? How you feeling?
I'm great, man. I just chugged an entire thing of G Fuel and I'm raring.
I know he's foaming at the mouth. I was sipping on mine. I was kind of like,
go. I gotta move.
I know. I was finishing off mine. I had a little. I knew that we were, you were a kindred spirit because I was finishing off my G Fuel. I actually have two shakers. I'm double fisting the shakers. You know what I mean?
Ooh, look at you go.
And there's a lot of caffeine coursing through my veins. Yeah, that's right. Lick that shaker.
Absolutely. You got to get the condensation off of there.
Yeah, you have to
on your hands.
You need some hydration as well. You know what I mean? No, for real. No, but Chris, you are a very regular streamer. And you are one of the, would you say one of the founding members of Waypoint Media? Is what
Co-founder.
Co-founder? Yeah. So, and is it Waypoint or is it Waypoint Media?
The Waypoint podcast. We typically casually we just kind of say Waypoint. Officially, the name is the Waypoint podcast because Waypoint, like on its own, actually taken. So by somebody else. I don't even remember who. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Not me.
Yeah. No, I hear you for real. No, but yeah. So you guys
Vice.
over at
that's who has the
Vice.
other Waypoint.
Right,
Vice
right,
games.
yeah.
Who cares about
yeah,
Vice?
Who cares,
games,
man?
bro?
Look, I caught you. You just caught yourself, right? I was like, look, you're gonna come on the show. It's family friendly. I got to keep it PG, mid PG 13. You're like, I could tell, but I appreciate you. Putting the old filter on. That's
Look, man, I come from a very Christian home. It's like a light switch on me. I can turn it on and off if I need to.
Fair enough. That's very much appreciated for sure. It's good to have you. I see you got your Agua. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about Riot from Paramore. We're going to be reviewing that record. I'm very excited to have you on. You were so gracious. I reached out to you. It's been a few months ago at this point, and
we've had this in the barrel for a minute.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of the story, right? That's kind of the story with everything wannabe. It's like I invite someone on, and then it happens like weeks later, months later. And dude, it's been the thing of I'm persistent. I usually check up on my guests, right, or that my potential guests, and there have been many people that you would probably be shocked that have agreed to come on and do this very thing. They said, yeah, man, that sounds great. And I just cannot get them nailed down because they're too busy. And it's one of those things.
Everybody be busy lately, man. That's just how it goes.
Despite
not being able to go outside or do anything, it still feels like we're all losing our minds doing things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've gotten more busy through this time period. You know what I mean? The past year and a half, 2 years, and it's been kind of crazy. And I'm anxious. That's one of the reasons, I view every acquaintance, right? Every person I meet, I view as an opportunity to make a connection, right? Because we're all trying to make this a career. We're all trying to help pay the bills, right? With doing something that we love. And, it's not like I tell people, and I don't know, like you may feel this a similar way. Like people ask like, oh, like you're a content creator. Like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I make YouTube videos. I'm a YouTuber. And like, so you must like, are you going to try and get famous? It's like, no. Like, no, I'm not going to try and get famous like that. That's literally one in like a million. But I mean,
I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, no, I mean, but at the same time, it's like the
I
goal.
I want to pay my bills with this.
Exactly.
Man.
I'm like,
I want to be able to live comfortably doing something that I love doing.
That's exactly how I feel. Yeah. And I think it was Khalif Adams who put it best. He's like, if you're just streaming, like that cannot be your only job. Like you need to have like another source of income. You know what I mean? So, no, shout out. But I wanted to ask you, like, how has it been for you this past year or so? With COVID. I mean, how have you been doing?
Well, it's one, I appreciate it. First, to back it up just a little bit, thank you for the invite and get me on. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm glad it's finally here and we're doing it. As far as how has COVID affected my content, I would say that I don't know how to gauge that because I started making content during COVID. I began what we would I guess call RumblePack 92 in July of last year. So I was like, right in the thick of it. Now, granted, it was something that I'd just kind of been sitting on my hands like for years and just never really got around to starting. And then I lost my job, and I was like, well, I have all of this stuff, and now I have time. And so I was like, now I have no excuses. And so I just started doing it. What are you? Okay. Sorry, my dog. He's doing whatever he wants. So for it's weird to say, but COVID was kind of at least a boon for me in that it sort of like forced me to get off my butt and start actually like doing the thing that I've been talking about doing forever. So I guess I'll have a better idea of how COVID has affected my stuff once COVID is done. and then if I get more productive, we'll know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So you started streaming during COVID is when you got your start. Wow. So you've already built up a decent following in this past year or so, like of
it's
who you watch. I mean,
everything I've done has been in the last year, which is wild because it's already so much bigger than I expected it to be. At least at this stage, I'm pushing 300 followers on Twitch. I've got like 500 something on Twitter. Like it's kind of dumb.
Dude, I mean,
it's kind of stupid.
So have you remind me of what the credentials are that you have to, because there was once upon a time, like 6, 7, 8 months ago, we were trying to stream our podcast live, and I just do not have the capabilities to do it, internet wise. So what exactly do you have to do to become an affiliate? Remind me again.
So, that's a good question. So, and I'm gonna flex a little bit, and I apologize if it comes off as a little braggy, but I'm very proud of it. To hit affiliate, I believe you have to have streamed for, and it's all within I believe like a month-long period. So in the course of a month, and if you don't hit the end of the month, it kind of resets. But in the course of a month, I believe you have to stream for at least like on 7 different days for so many hours. I think it's like 20, and then you have to hit 50 followers. And I got this is the flex a little bit, but when I started in late July, and exactly 2 weeks to the day is when I hit a affiliate on Twitch. So it took me 5-10 streams, and then I was an affiliate because I did it Monday to Friday for those 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's admirable, right? I mean, I would say cool.
I was more productive then because I didn't have a job. I wasn't doing anything else.
Right. So you're kind of give you time to like, and I've tuned into your streams, occasionally, and kind of popped in just to say hi and, like, what's up? How's it going? Yeah, for sure. And it is one of those things, like everyone is trying to do something, and it is so hard. And maybe you can kind of speak to this too. Like, it's so hard to support everybody. Like, it's hard to not, I mean, like, just speaking from experience, like there's several people that I've met, through the past year. Cause I think I would say within the past year or two is whenever I really started, I was able to give more time to, what I was doing, and, like built more Twitter followers and things like that, and started making connections, like, the Bush League guys and stuff like that. And, Matt from Assemble, and, like, and you guys too, obviously you guys from Waypoint. And it's been one of those things, like it's been a slow, gradual process. It's like everyone is doing something. And I mean, how do you personally, because I know for me, whether it be I might toss a couple bucks someone's way, or, I might tune in whenever I can, or I might buy someone's merch or whatever. Like, how do you personally like deal with all of that while keeping your own projects moving along?
I'm not great at it, and I feel bad a lot for not being able to constantly like tune into everybody. But I mean, it's as like if we want to talk about like personally trying to make it, I think I threw my hat into the ring at the worst possible time, because everybody else started doing content within the last year or so. But that's also been really, really fun, because now I have a bunch of peers that are all kind of going through similar things. Really what I typically end up doing is dropping a whole bunch of subs like in the first half of the month on Twitch, and then by the end of it I'll be like, wow, I'm spending way too much money on Twitch, and I gotta pull back. Because I'm like, oh no, that's over $100. But I mean, I almost treat it the same way that I would kind of like supporting some of my favorite bands, or if somebody makes a piece of merch that I really like I'm gonna pick it up. It's a cool design, like, you know, that sort of thing. I'll try. Usually if I'm rating somebody after I finish a stream and I'm not sub to them, I'll drop them a sub for a month at least, and kind of at least, you know, be able to throw the paltry little 250 after Twitch takes their cut,
right?
That I can at them, but at least let them know that it's like I'm here, I see you, like keep doing what you're doing, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's hard to sit in on my friends' streams, just because my work schedule changes all the time, and if I have free time, I'm probably going to stream myself. But Twitter has at least helped me a lot in that I can kind of have a sort of idea of what everybody's doing, and at least kind of stay in the know there, and be like, yeah, I saw you're doing this thing, how'd that go? And whenever I talk to them, occasionally I'll be able to jump in. But like the people that make videos that summarize stuff that happens on streams are a godsend. That's how I keep up with people.
Yeah, for real.
Highlight clips or stuff, then I go, thank God, because I wanted to see it and I couldn't because I was doing something else. Especially if I'm like recording Waypoint, or I'm at work, or I'm doing my own streams. Like, it's just there's so much. There's definitely not a shortage of amazing content out there.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of in a beautiful period right now where a lot of people are kind of finding their own voice, you know. And I think for me, you hit something on the head. It was kind of like everyone started their stuff. Well, you know, I've been podcasting since 2018. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like for me, it was always that thing like, well, how am I going to stand out? It's like, well, there's not a ton of family friendly podcasts out there. You know what I mean? I mean, there are, but like
mine's super not. That's for
sure. And I mean, but to me, it was like, well, that'd be cool if there was kind of a hub that there was kind of a thing of like, okay, well, whenever you go here, you know, you already know what to expect. Right.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of been my thing. But again, like I talk about this all the time on Twitter, like it can be hard whenever the numbers aren't exactly where you want them to be. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you can't let a number define you. But
yeah, it's a tough struggle for sure. And I think now a lot of people started like streaming and content creation over the last year because they were at home, and it's like, what else am I going to do in my free time? Maybe I could try this out and see how it is. And I think we're already starting to kind of see some of that fall off. And it's like some people were like, it didn't work, or maybe I wasn't interested in it, or it's not where I want it to be. Whereas I think we're now starting to see like the people that are going to outlast that sort of I'm doing it to kill time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is all fine. I mean, you know, people can make content for whatever reason that they want to, and I'm not trying to say that any of it was bad or anything. I think we're starting to hit an interesting point though, where, like you said, people have kind of found their voice after doing it for a certain amount of time and really figured out what their niche is, and now they're pushing super hard into that. And I think all the content that I'm seeing from all of my friends and the people that I follow and stuff starting to get really, really interesting, because now we're not all doing the same thing anymore, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's cool to kind of watch the directions that people take.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to, you know, pick your brain about Waypoint a little bit too. So of course, you know, you're a part of Waypoint. You have Austin Ernst, I think is his last name. Is that right?
That's the one.
And then also you have Alec Bobko, and then Jordan Deeb, Brett Jameson, right? Yeah. So is that the core members? Am I missing anybody?
Yeah, you left out some other Josh, but that's fine because we don't.
Oh yeah. I forgot about him. Forgot all about him. A joke unintended. Because you guys, every clip I see, you guys are always, you know, button heads. And plus, the guy changes his profile picture like every 5 minutes, so I can never keep up with who he actually is.
Oh my God, it's the worst, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, he'll comment. I'll be like, "Who is this clown?" And I'll be like, "Oh, that's just Josh."
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of those things. His takes, honestly, for me, either really hit or really don't. Like it's either it's spot on with how I feel, or completely the opposite. Which is kind of interesting, I think.
He's simultaneously like purposefully abrasive with his takes, but at the same time, he is and he isn't joking. He blew up with the knack thing for a little while, and everyone was like, he doesn't actually like knack. I was like, no, it's not a joke. Like, he really does love knack and goes super hard on that, but also because it gets such a strong reaction. And
right, kind of like the Last Jedi thing, which that's usually where I tune in because I love the Last Jedi.
Oh yeah, big fan.
but a lot of people don't. So I know it's in anytime you bring up The Last Jedi, it's almost like you do it with vitriol, like every time intentionally just to like polarize the situation. And, which is fine with me, but no, that Waypoint, you guys have a diverse group of guys over there doing some really cool stuff. Every time I see a clip posted, it's like, oh man, and I think Alex, you guys' producer, right? He edits your stuff, correct?
He does it. If every time you see those like social clips, like Al does those, but the editing is actually split up between myself, Al, and Austin. Like all three of us will edit different stuff. You can kind of tell because we tend to take it by series. So Al will do the grind. And then I handle most of the media club ones. So like the Falcon Winter Soldier, Mandalorian, WandaVision, like those were all me, as well as like a handful of others. And then Austin's he just started his own show called Pitch It that he's editing himself because that's like his vision. Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's just kind of a like a basis by basis sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think, in a way, and I'm not saying that our two, brands are anything like each other, but it is one of those things to me where it's like, I like seeing another, for lack of a better word, like we'll use the word up and coming because smaller feels, like
I would define it as smaller, but I mean, I like up and coming though too.
Yeah, I mean, up and coming, and I mean, I feel like Wannabe Critic Productions has been up and coming since existence, right? And that's fine. If we have 10 solid people that love it. Yeah, no, I love it. But it's cool to see Waypoint kind of coming up with these new ideas and like kind of like, hey, this is this show, this is what it does, this is this show. And I'm like, I love seeing a group of creatives that isn't the people who get paid to do it, right? Like the kind of funnies and the Rooster Teeths and the Fun Houses and all this other stuff.
It's all passion project. It's 100% a passion project too. To where when we started bringing on guests, I have to warn them. I was like, hey, this is a for fun thing. Like, I hope you're okay with that. And thankfully people are like, yeah, no, that's fine. But I mean, no, we don't make a cent for anything that we do on Waypoint. Not that we don't have any ideas for monetization, but I think we wanted to take some time first and feel it out and see where to go with that, which we do have some plans for that. So some cool stuff,
that's awesome. I think for me, like whenever you have a lot of different, and I think a problem you guys are probably going to run into at some point is like you have all these ideas and only so much time. And that's the hard part is like, because we have so many things going on over here, that it's like, I want to do it all. And I kind of have time to do it all, but I kind of don't, and it's frustrating.
It also gets hard the Waypoints too, to where the idea when we all came together too was that it's a collective of people who already create things.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the time Al was streaming, he's kind of dropped off that and is focused like 100% on Waypoint now. But I mean, Austin's writing for 6-1 Indie. Jordan has his own podcast and like media thing. I mean, I stream myself. I do a little bit on YouTube, that sort of thing. Brett streams. Josh doesn't. He's just there. But I mean, it's like the rest of us,
Yeah.
He just kind of showed up. I mean, and when we started, Matt from Assemble was with us as well. And of course he's exploded.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was doing his own thing too. So
yeah,
it definitely makes it hard to schedule things with so many of us. But that was also kind of the idea to where there's like, hey, if there's a lot of us, we don't all have to be on everything.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Which kind of gives us a little bit of room to breathe where we're really, hey, we're thinking about doing this on this episode. And I'll just be like, yeah, I can't make that. But I mean, you have so many people, like you'll be fine without me. And so I'll just bounce and let them do that. And that makes it at least flexible, but it's hard still.
Yeah.
We have very regular meetings to make sure that we can all go to things.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate, because I'm kind of the one running everything, right? I mean, my name's on all of our shows and stuff, but all of my co-hosts and people that are part of it all, they're kind of, this is what they do, so I have a group of people that help me with each different project that, then everything's assigned to different stuff. And I can kind of, it has gotten to the point now though, to where I can kind of relate to you where it's like, hey, there's not really a reason for all 6 of us to be here, and I'd rather if we didn't, so it's kind of got to that point, but that's cool. It's cool to see Waypoint up and coming. And, I think, the way you guys, I think the way you guys have it set up, it kind of is in a way, I think you're inherently set up for success. If you keep going. That. So yeah, that's really cool. But
it's cool too, because we all come from prior creative endeavors that kind of didn't really go anywhere. And so I think it's unique that too, in that we're all kind of taking lessons from stuff we've already worked on and kind of at least have some ideas of like, well, this didn't work out for me there, so let's do it differently here and try and learn from that. And with we have so many different perspectives that I think it's unique in that space. And that, I mean, we're all already creatives doing something else, which you don't see a lot of with big groups like that. And so that's like the thing that excites me the most about what we do over at Waypoint is that we're all creators outside of that as well, and that's really fun.
Yeah, and
except for Josh again, that comment.
Shots fired.
Always, I take every single opportunity that I can.
Literally, it's like you want. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris goes full on John Wick on Josh at some point during a podcast. But people don't want to hear about us talking about God knows what. People don't want to hear us talking about Waypoint. People don't want to hear us talking about Wannabe Critic. No one wants to hear that. What they really are here for, Chris, is for us to talk about Paramore. So before we get into our hot takes for this episode, because I mean, you have your peppers, right? You have your Ole Rico. You have the same ones as me, dried habaneros.
Rico.
Yeah. And you say you handle hot stuff pretty good. But before we get into that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna give a shout out to Pabst Blue Ribbon. I'm cheating on Natural Light this evening. You got the coffee going. That's cool.
I do have the coffee. I figured maybe something a little milk based.
Yeah, no, that should help. Yeah. Or you'll throw up, either one. You are refreshed. That's good.
Or I'll vomit.
Yeah, it's one or the other. Yeah, one or the other. I want to take this opportunity before we get into kind of history with the band, of Paramore. I definitely want to hear it, but I do want to take this opportunity to say that this episode of Wannabe Music Reviews is in fact sponsored by patreon.com/wannabecritic. We do, as I mentioned before with Chris, Chris knows what it's like to be involved with a lot of different stuff. And it eventually gets to a point where you're like, you know what? People might want to support the show in a different way because they can't watch the stuff. You know what I mean? So if you don't have a few dollars to toss the way of the Wannabe Critic, which is myself, that's fine. I'm just happy you made it this far. I'm happy that you listened to whatever it is you're listening to. It really means the world, seriously. But if you do want to go check that out, Chris, do you realize that there is a tier now on the Patreon where you can literally request a song and I will literally cover it specifically for you?
Well, that's exciting. And no, I didn't. And how much is that?
I believe it is $5 per month. So
$5.
Yeah. I know it's kind of, I mean, is it steep? I don't know. But I mean, a full-on drum cover or a full-on band cover across the board. I mean, you're talking about vocals, you're talking about guitar, you're talking about bass and drums all put together just for you specifically. And there's only a few of them available. You know what I mean? There's only a few of them available. So there's that. Oh, Chris is about to make me feel real bad if he actually, if he's actually doing what I think he's doing. But no, you can go check that stuff out. There, we also got a bunch of stuff down in the description down below, all the projects that, is involved with Wannabe Critic Productions, and definitely go check all that out. But Chris, the time has come. You know what I mean? The time has come for you to tell me about your history with Paramore, because I guarantee you it is 100% different than my background with the band.
Most likely. Well, I don't know. Mine's pretty typical. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this out by saying I'm an old man. I was born in 1992. My first exposure to Paramore would have been, I apologize, I had to go look it up because it's just like it would have actually been their first album, All We Know Is Falling. Because like many other people, I was in 2005. I was in middle school. I heard Pressure, and I was 90s kid, early 2000s. I grew up on pop punk and that sort of extreme mindset, and so I was already a big fan of bands like Sum 41 and Fall Out Boy, All American Rejects, like that whole like Blink. Punk emo, Blink, absolutely. All that scene, and so first I heard Paramore, and I was like, yo, what is this Blink sounding band with this really pretty vocalist? And I mean, from Pressure, I was hooked. Like, I mean, it's like that. I hear that first chord, I feel the pressure, and I was done. That was it. I was like, oh my god, these guys are awesome. But I was poor and couldn't buy albums off of iTunes or go to buy CDs. So all of it had to be like just through YouTube videos. And so when Riot came out and it exploded, like that was really, I think, when I first got into Paramore, because like half that album turned into like mega hits. They were on the radio all the time. A couple songs were on Rock Band, which is absolutely something I'm going to talk about later. I mean, it was huge. And so as a teenager, a young boy, just learning to play guitar, who was really into that emo punk sound already, some of the first songs I ever learned to play were Paramore stuff. I think the first song I learned through them was I was actually playing guitar in my church youth band, right?
Oh.
And they have a song Hallelujah that we got away with because of the name, and the adults had never heard of Paramore. And so I learned to play Hallelujah. And then when I got this here guitar for my 16th birthday, ain't she pretty?
She is pretty.
Her name is Haley, after Haley Williams.
Oh, and it's red.
Because of the red, yeah, 100%.
I see it.
That would have been like not too long after the Crush music video either, and so I've had a perpetual celebrity crush on Haley Williams. My wife is aware of it; she has known, and it's just that's how it goes. Oh my goodness, I think. Okay, she's down-tuned right now. I can't play any Paramore today. I was playing some August Burns Red. It's in drop C.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Great band. I love August Burns Red.
My favorite tattoo.
So good.
But yeah, I mean, it's like really since they first dropped their first album, I've been on board, and I'm of the opinion they have not put out a single bad record. A lot of people weren't too crazy about the style change when the self-titled and then After Laughter came out, but I mean it's different, but I'm here for it. They're brilliant and they make good stuff.
I think it kind of falls into that. Yeah, I think it kind of falls into that similar thing of like sometimes bands will put out a record that's wildly different than what they usually put out, right? I think about a band like Coldplay or even a band like U2, right? They'll put out something that's wildly different than what they put out before. They'll do two or three records in a genre before they change, right? Man, if we only had Brett on for talking about
Coldplay, I know.
Yeah, talking about Coldplay.
He heard us, don't worry. He felt it. Yeah, he felt the disturbance.
Yeah, he literally he heard Coldplay and he goes, Chris and Gabe? What's going on? But no, I think about like even like Bring Me the Horizon, right? With their newest record, they really made the transition from the deathcore to the metalcore to, kind of the poppy rock, dark pop as I've been calling it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things like, yes, it's a pop record. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like it is. There's
definitely some really like metalcore songs on there though,
for sure. I mean, the flavor, really cool. The attitude, right? The attitude, it does, even though it's different, it still feels like Bring Me the Horizon. And same thing with Paramore. Even whenever they made their shift into pop music, it is wildly different music, but the attitude still feels the same. And I would argue that A Day to Remember is kind of in that transition right now as well with their newest record, which I do have to say it didn't
click for me.
I hope they figure it out, because there was like, if they I think the name of the record is You're Welcome. You're welcome. They should have said You're Welcome ... for that one good song we put out on the new record. Yeah, I mean it's good. I mean it's pretty good, but I hope they figure it out. Is all I have to say. But we're not talking about A Day to Remember though.
It's always weird though. Before we get too far, it's always weird how sometimes like it almost feels like a nebulous thing to where a band will be like, yeah, what if I tried a pop thing, and people will be like, ew, and then like Bring Me the Horizon's like here's a pop thing, and everyone's like, this is incredible.
I think about
and I think it's just sometimes you could tell whether it's genuine or not, and I don't want to speak for anybody in A Day to Remember or anything, but I mean it's like there's something about it that just didn't hit and doesn't.
It felt like a paycheck record a little bit.
Yeah,
and that could be the thing of they're genuine. I mean, I went and saw them live. They were.
If that's what you're gonna do, then get that back. I might not click with me, but I'm sure it hits for somebody.
And I was about to make another kind of comparison, like Never Shout Never. talk about someone who has literally made so many different records, sounding records, which he's from my hometown, actually.
Really?
Yeah, Joplin, Missouri. So I actually know I went to school with his sister, which is kind of interesting. But
I didn't know you were in Joplin. I was born in Kansas City.
Oh, really? Which makes sense why you're a Chiefs fan.
Sir.
So there you have it.
Sir.
Yeah, there you go. Chiefs Kingdom, baby. Yeah, no, I'm from Joplin. And
I was born in Kearney.
Yeah, okay, right on. Cool. But I think the evolution with Paramore, though, I think the attitude is still pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So I will be interested to kind of hear your critiques about this record and do it. And my history with Paramore is wildly different. I never listened to a Paramore album until I started doing this project.
Really?
Or Paramore. I had always heard Misery Business. I had always liked, I had liked what's the song from? I don't remember. If It Means a Lot to You, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Downfall of Us All, maybe, but I mean,
she was on she was the female vocalist on If It Means a Lot to You. And I had never really clicked with her music before, but I do what whenever I get stumped on something, I know I want to do something, but I don't know how to go about it. I usually put the feelers out on Twitter. It's like, hey, what would you listen to? What would you rather listen to? And so Paramore was after My Chemical Romance, it was like the runner up. So it was kind of hard to kind of challenge myself a little bit because, and we're going to be working on a project with Fonts from Plastic Hearts, here in the future. And I wanted to talk about what that is yet. It'll be a hot takes as well. But it was kind of interesting going back to, the first record, which I'll be talking about with someone else. But the second record really kind of felt like the 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge for Paramore in a way. Like it kind of felt like the first record really was laying the foundation and kind of had that initial DNA. And like this was just kind of like a 0.1 version or a 0.2 version of the first record in a lot of ways. With more polish and stuff like that. So I didn't really have as close of a relationship with Paramore as you did, you know what I mean? But I'm glad that I do have someone who's so in love with it because it'll be interesting to hear your takes. And it'll be interesting to hear you say, Gabe, no, man, like you're off base. You're wrong. Like you're not feeling it. You know what I mean? So it'll be good. But it has gotten to the point. Are you done romanticizing about your relationship with Paramore?
Yeah,
do you have anything else?
I think that's the gist of it.
Okay, right on. Well, we have gotten to the point in the podcast, Chris, where it is time to give our hot takes about the record Riot from Paramore. I just about forgot their name. It's worth noting that Riot came out in 2007. The editor's notes on iTunes says, "Thank goodness for."
I was but a 15-year-old boy
in 2007.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I was 12. So because you're 3 years older than me. So
yeah.
It says, thank goodness for Paramore. With their second album, they continue to combine the giddy thrash of Fall Out Boy with the sophisticated emo of their label, fueled by ramen, sparked by the firecracker presence of front woman Hayley Williams. Until Paramore appeared, emo had been almost entirely dominated by male perspectives. Here, Williams brings a much-needed female outlook to the genre and some serious nerve in case of boyfriend stealing anthem Misery Business, along with the ability to sing like a demon, Miracle, and an angel ballad When It Rains. Okay.
It's what's funny though too is just to kind of speak on the era, like that was how Paramore was described to people, as like, hey, what if Fall Out Boy had a female vocalist? Like that was how you explained it to people, and that was something that I heard over and over and over again, and it really says something to the just the sheer power, like, of the force that was Fall Out Boy in the emo punk scene in the early 2000s. Right. Like they were the band.
Yeah, I mean the perspective, like they were what the young kids were listening to, right? Like, there wasn't.
Oh yeah, that was the mainstream counterculture, if that makes any sense at all. But
I mean, I think
like if you wanted to get away from pop music, you listened to Fall Out Boy, like you just did.
It was kind of like the equalizer between. There were people I never would have guessed, that actually enjoyed Fall Out Boy because it was like, yeah, this is like angsty teenage music. It was almost like that generation's version of Nirvana, almost. It seems
100%.
Like
I would say that they were.
Yeah,
until
sure.
their weird comeback in 2012 or whatever. But even I mean, it's like they were the benchmark. It was like, have you heard Paramore? They're kind of like Fall Out Boy with the girl, or even like the first time I heard, to go back to Day to Remember, when their first album dropped, they were describing it as like, it's like if you mashed up death metal with Fall Out Boy. And I was just like, I don't know what that means.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, they were the ceiling, and that was how you described everything that fell underneath it. They're kind of like Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, which is now you look back at it and I'm like,
silly.
They don't sound anything like Fall Out Boy.
No,
like not even
they're
a little bit.
They're in the same genre. That's about as close as it gets.
I mean, even musically, like I think, yeah. I'm saying my hot takes. All right, I'm gonna say it because I got a hot take. So we've gotten to the point where we have to give our hot takes, and since you are the famed guest, Chris, you have to go first. So go ahead and open up those bad boys.
I haven't even opened it yet.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's really tight. There we go. Okay.
Open up those bad boys and give them a smell.
Woo!
How do they smell to you? Do they smell kind of like dates, like dried dates? Like
they smell a little bit like dates. Although, yeah. I mean, obviously they got a little bit of tinge to it, but also, I mean, it's like to really speak to that peppery kind of vibe. Like it smells a lot like what I put in my chili. Funny enough, like I'll get like this cool little chili mix that has some habaneros in it. And
I mean, yeah, I think that's basically what this is like a, it's kind of like a, or whatever, like you know what I mean, like for a giant pot of chili. So what we're gonna do, actually, I just remembered what we do is we both eat them at the same time, but you have to talk first.
I have to talk first. All right.
So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull my pepper out, and we obviously, this is like our side take on like hot ones, right? So yeah. The goal is to go as long as you can without drinking anything. But I will tell you, you do get a pass. Well, you do get a pass for whenever you first chew it up because it is dry. I mean, it is mucho dry.
Cool. Yeah, that's why I got the water.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, on the count of 3, we're going to pop this bad boy, and then you're going to give your review of Riot from Paramore.
All right, let's go.
3, 2, 1.
Cheers. Well, very dry. Oh, jeez. Woo, you weren't joking. It's like lodged on the back of my throat, so I can feel like some chunks still back there. Hold on.
My nasal passages are opened wide.
Jeez. Okay.
Okay. Go
I
for
knew
it,
it was gonna
Chris.
be hot, and that's still so hot. Oh my gosh. So hot takes on on Riot. I adore this album. Like, there's no. I'm sorry. I thought I was ready, and I just wasn't. It's sharp. It's like sharp. Like, because I just threw it all to the back of my throat. And
yeah, no, it'll linger.
There's no bad tracks on this album, though. There's a couple that aren't like stupid mega hits or anything. I'm sweating. But I mean, it's hit to hit to hit. I mean, from the very beginning, for a pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. It comes rip roaring right out the gate, right, with this. Christ, with this really fast, which as a drummer, I adore that. The drummer on this album, I don't know his name off the top of my head. Incredible, super tight, really, really, really well played. Oh my god, resting it on my tongue was the worst idea in the world. But I mean.
You gonna make it?
Oh my god!
God, it's so hot, dude. It's so bad.
Why is it so bad? Why is it spicy?
Holy crap! I'm kind of sweating. Mine was really hot.
Mine was. I've had habaneros before that were not that hot. Oh my god!
I mean, 100,000 to 300,000 scale. I mean, that's.
I'm crying, bro. That's where I'm at right now.
Aren't you glad you came on the show?
Not even a little bit. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm gonna throw an ice cube in my mouth. I can never be on a show like Hot Ones. Like, I would get demolished. As much as I love hot foods, there's a ceiling, you know?
No, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, there gets to a point where it's just not enjoyable.
And I'm still a white boy. So, I mean, it's like, I don't mess with that. But I mean, it comes rip roaring out the gate with a bunch of just extremely strong tracks. For a pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. That's what you get. Hallelujah, Misery Business, When It Rains. The first 5 are just back-to-back bangers. I got to give her water, dude. Oh, my God. I'd say my hottest take that's only slightly less hot as this pepper. Christ. Is that the songs that didn't become like big like singles or mega hits are kind of just okay. Songs like Miracle or We Are Broken, which are really only the two, probably just those two. Because the rest of it, bangers, you know?
No, yeah, I hear you, bro.
Yeah. I gotta tiptoe through it. I especially want to focus on Josh Farrow, the guitarist, who also is their main like songwriter. At least he was for this album, because even in a scene that was very, very popular at the time, there were lots of bands in the pop music scene, right? For what I would call like a pretty like bloated genre at the point where Paramore came in. Not only did they manage to make stuff that or write stuff that sounded a lot like what was going on at the time, they made it very, very unique. And I'm always fascinated by their they're really like surprisingly complex like chord structures and progressions. Oh, I'm gonna have to get another PBR. Just because they're it sounds deceptively simple the first time you heard it, but there's so much this first time you hear their stuff, but there's so much more than just like power chords going on there or something, you know what I mean? Sure. Their guitar tones are really are really clean and crisp and clearly like lots of thought was put into the way everything sounds on just about every level that you can think of. But there's also never a point where anyone in the band really overplays. Everything feels really tight and purposeful, and they definitely knew when to. Oh my God, dude! That was so much worse than I thought it was going to be. They do a really good job of knowing exactly when they're gonna have lead parts over just chords and that sort of thing. Not every song follows like the verse chorus bridge chorus. They kind of play around with song structure a little bit, and it's really, really solid front to back. And the choruses on just about every single song are some of the most catchy things you'll ever hear in your entire life. Like it's so good at digging its hooks in you, to the point where I still hum Misery Business to myself all the time. I get That's What You Get stuck in my head a lot. Crush will always be one of my favorite songs, because that was one of the, like I said earlier, one of my earliest exposures to them. And I mean, That's What You Get was in Rock Band even, to the point where, I mean, you know, that those first notes, the like, that's iconic, man. Like that stuff's awesome. When you think about the strings at the beginning of Misery Business, like it's so solid on every single level that it's hard to kind of find a chink in the armor, especially in 2007, where people were just kind of throwing power chords over something and being like, look, we made a pop punk album. And I think that's what made Paramore end up stand alongside the likes of All American Rejects or Fall Out Boy and that sort of thing, where everything was a little more, for lack of a better word, intentional. To where you can really hear the care and thought put into every single inch of every song, while also being just simple enough to not only kind of pertain to like music nerds. Like it's still simple enough that, I mean, it gets radio play and it's catchy enough that people that might not have been into the scene might have gotten into it, and it's just all around, it's just excellent. And oh my god, I'm gonna die, bro.
Are you you have does that wrap up your review?
If you can call that a review, yeah.
I mean, that was pretty good. I'll be chopping it up a little bit, you know what I mean? Like because you have to at the hot takes. Doesn't talking make it worse?
That's 10 times worse, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I had to keep stopping.
So I echo a lot of the same sentiments as you. I think this is a great album. I really do. I do think my biggest thing, you know, and I'm not going to rehash a lot of the same stuff that you said, because you pretty much said it all, you know. I think that more importantly, you know, this album came out at a time where it was deeply influential on a different level, inherently because Hayley Williams is a female vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
So I very vividly remember, you know, the girls in middle school and high school kind of walking around like dressed like Hayley Williams, you know what I mean?
100%.
And she was the icon for that to
the point where I give Hayley a lot of credit for starting for what I simply call is what's known as the scene movement, to where you think of
Hayley Williams
with, like,
and
the colored hair.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
and like the stuff on the arms, like all
at least for girls, because I mean, there was a point in time where I think there was like all these guys walking around high school and they all looked like they belonged in Asking Alexandria. You know what I mean? That or the Black Veil Bride, you know, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right on the money. You know, like she was kind of like the pop punk Madonna, you know, because she was wearing like
think of another. Yeah, that's perfect.
Like that was kind of like she kind of brought back that feminism, you know, movement for that genre of people. You know, it was kind of like that was their movement. Was Hayley Williams?
It was something that came out of alternative music, but still had that sort of mainstream star power through Hayley Williams, to the point where, I mean, it's like even just for this review, I had to go look up the name of the guitarist again because I'd forgotten his name. Because I mean, it's like Paramore is Hayley Williams. Like that's like, you think Paramore, you think of Hayley. Like it's been a lot of those same other members, and I don't want to give them, I don't want to disparage any of them because those guys do the songwriting, and they're why Paramore is they're a big reason as to why Paramore is as great as they are. But it's like when you think of Paramore, you think of Hayley.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she's definitely, it's kind of like whenever I think of like Kings of Leon, I don't think about how great the guitar player is. I think about how interesting the lead singer's voice is, you know?
Right.
And I think it kind of falls into that same type of thing. That being said, no matter how influential, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head too, with there are just some songs on here that are just okay. I think as an entire record, it really works really well. I think it's a solid listen, but it also kind of does fall into the same thing that the first record falls into.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I had against, because, you know, me and my wife have been listening to Paramore the past few weeks, right, in the car, those first two records. And kind of the thing that we both kind of came up with was, this is good, but I'm not in the mood for this all the time. Right. And it kind of falls into that thing of the first album sounds like one giant song. And you can kind of attribute that to that being just the genre of music that it's in. But even something like Fall Out Boy, right? You had, you have a song like Sugar, you know, Honey, Sugar, We're Going Down versus a song like I'm a lawyer with the way that I get you off, right? Two wildly different songs, you know, in terms of
that same album also have Dance.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Which is crazy.
I mean, you think about it. There was a thing of whenever you hear a Fall Out Boy song, you know it's Fall Out Boy, right? Aside from those 3 or 4 bangers that are on this record, right? For me personally, and I think for a lot of people, for the average music non-super fan Paramore fan, if you put a random song from one of the, you know, from off of Riot, that's not one of their singles, someone's going to be like, this is going to be the reaction. You're like, oh, this is cool. Who is this?
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to know. Whereas if Misery Business would have come on and be like, oh, you're an idiot. It's, you know, it's Paramore. You don't know it's Paramore? Yeah, of course. Yeah. You know, and I think it just kind of falls into that same thing that the first record was, is that it just sounds so similar, you know, and this is where I think it really does differentiate itself from Fall Out Boy. And that Fall Out Boy, literally every song is based off of, a poem that Pete Wentz wrote, right? I mean, it's all very intentional, and it's all, for lack of a better word, it's intentional. And they were able to perfectly execute. It wasn't this thing of, oh, we're going to go into the studio and see what sticks. No. Pete Wentz had everything like telegraphed already pretty much for the band. He's like, hey, this is how it should sound. He has an idea for it. And I think there is kind of not a sense of laziness, but there is a sense of, we know what we're supposed to be putting out. This first record really made us pop off. Let's kind of build on that. Right. And I think the DNA of the first record is there. And I do think
it does feel like they took sort of the sound from the first one and they're like, what if we tightened it up?
Exactly.
And polished it and that sort of thing. And it's always, I always love talking about these sort of like, it's weird to call Paramore any sort of like niche or genre specific anything, because I mean they're so big, but I mean it's like I would classify them in like the, or at least this album, like that sort of like pop punk emo alternative scene. Oh my god, it's coming back now that I'm talking a whole bunch again. I thought it was fine, but having sort of like grown up in that scene, or at least secretly, don't tell my parents, who I was supposed to be listening to Toby Mac or whatever when I was growing up. There's always this weird sort of dichotomy within like alternative scenes, especially when it's like punk or hardcore or metalcore or that sort of thing, to where sometimes it's like it doesn't have to be like super varied or genre breaking. Sometimes it's like, hey, I just want pop punk and that's it, like nothing else. Like sure. I just want it to sound like this thing. And then there's others who are like, yeah, but it's kind of the same thing over and over again. And I mean, think it's always, I always love having that discussion, because some people are like, yeah, just give me more of that.
Right. Well, I think that's like why Chevelle, right? Like Chevelle puts the same album out every single time. Like,
sure. Or I think like AC/DC.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. I mean, for God's sakes, Foo Fighters is my favorite band of all time. And I mean, for the vast majority of their career, they're putting out a lot of the music that sounds the same, right?
I mean, as somebody that's not a huge fan, I would say it's like, hey, every record kind of sounds the same to me.
Yeah, and
it's that's not bad, but it's
exactly
it's not really for me.
Right. And I think it is that thing of you know what you're getting yourself into, and you do that thing rather well. And again, it's a very somewhat nitpicky type thing, and I think I have the same criticism for a band like My Chemical Romance, which was very much their first record. The next one right after that was literally the same thing, the exact same thing, just way tightened up, and had a few songs that they got lucky with,
which is so crazy too, because I remember when the next one came out, which I think would have been the third one, is Black Parade, right?
Correct.
I remember when the third one came out, I knew a bunch of people that were upset that it sounded the way that it did, because it didn't sound like their first two records.
Yeah, for sure.
I was actually at this time when I was listening to Paramore back in the early 2000s, like I was living in Florida at the time, and which is cool because I got to see the come up of both Under Oath and A Day to Remember, who are both Florida-based bands, and I remember especially when Under Oath switched vocalists. Dallas Taylor left the band and they brought on Spencer Chamberlain, which is when a lot of people like really got exposed to Under Oath. Was that first album with Spencer, and that was when they'd signed to like Solid State Records, and that was kind of their first like big mainstream hit. And so everyone was listening to Under Oath, but living in Florida and seeing the people who didn't see them like locally and do all this stuff, they were like, I just don't like this new Under Oath with this new guy. It sounds completely different, and I don't like that. And it's so funny to think back on that, because that is Under Oath to me, even though I'd heard that early stuff and that sort of thing. But it's like Spencer Chamberlain is part of Under Oath to me, and there's that weird sort of dichotomy. I was like, this sounds different, and I don't like it. And I think it's just kind of it's kind of out there. And I mean, Paramore has had their own version of that once they're self-titled, and especially when After Laughter came out. And people are like, what the heck? This doesn't sound like Riot, Yeah.
And I think, whenever you make it, quote unquote, in the music industry, it's one of those things where I think their best overall record, I've been doing my homework on Paramore for this project, and I think their best one across the board is probably their third one. I think that Riot probably had
Brand New Eyes.
Yeah, I think Riot, because I mean, you had kind of that transition, right, from the older sounding stuff to it's kind of like a salute a little bit. It's like, hey, we're kind of going this direction now, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of,
a lot of people that were not big on that album because it didn't sound like Riot or like their first one.
Well, and see, that's the thing, that's what's so amazing about whenever you approach a band for something like this that you have no attachment to whatsoever. Mm-hmm. You know, they had those couple songs on Rock Band, big deal. Like, okay, I played them, cool. I was never a fan, right? To where now I can approach this like, well, this one seems more well-rounded. And it's interesting whenever you kind of take a record like this and see, it's like, are you looking, and this is with any band, it's like, okay, is the record really good, or are you looking at it with rose-colored glasses in some way because of the feeling and, you know, the memories that you have attached to it? Now, that being said, I think Riot is an awesome album. Like, I think it very much deserves a lot of much of the praise that it receives. The only thing I knock it for is it's almost like whenever you go to take your driver's test or your, you know, let's say your permit test and you fail a little bit, you know, and then you go back and you actually pass the second time, you have just what you need. It's like, okay, we still want to work with this idea. We want to take the first record basically and make a better version of it.
Tighten up the screws.
Exactly. The first record is still awesome. I still think the first record has a lot of like raw emotion. There's a hunger that you're never going to get back with a first album like that. Whereas the second one, it kind of, they were like, okay, like now it's like, do you watch My Hero?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you know, it's like Midoriya in season 2, you know, kind of coming back. He's learned some stuff. He's not crying anymore. You know, he's a little more refined.
He's isolated it to his fingers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, exactly. You speak my language. So I think this album is, in the climate that it was released in, widely very important for the time period it was released in. And I'm sad I missed out on it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of sad I missed out on it.
Like half that album is just like absolute like emo punk anthems. Like it's crazy how many of those songs are considered like classics of the genre off that one record. I mean, it's like for pessimistic optimism, that's what you get. Hallelujah, Misery Business, Crush, Fences, Born for This, When It Rains. All of those are massive hits within the scene. Like it's unbelievable how many it's to I mean, they were, to borrow a term from Post Malone, they were just cranking out classics, man. Like it's wild.
Yeah. So do you think that Riot is probably, do you think that that's like peak Paramore for you personally? Is Riot your favorite record by them?
Riot is my favorite record. Specifically because, I mean, it's like, you know, I was young. I was there when it came out. Like that's, I have a lot of nostalgia tied to that one. And when I think of Paramore, one of those songs is usually what ends up in my head. Would I say it's their best album? If I had to go as objectively as possible, probably not. Because I think they definitely managed to get a little tighter and do more unique stuff. I might agree with you in that I think like Brand New Eyes is probably their best one. But I'm always going to be partial to Riot because, again, that was sort of like the anthem of my high school, middle school years. Right. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the American Idiot of, you know, like the pop punk genre, you know?
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, it kind of, I mean, it's like you said, it's genre defining, you know, and it's widely important. And again, you know, we come back to it. Is it a good album today? You know what I mean? Is a question that I ask myself. And I think it is very much so. This is coming up for someone who doesn't have any attachment for it, but I can somehow place myself in the time period that it was released in and be like, oh my God, like, why wasn't I listening to this? You know what I mean?
It's also the sort of album to kind of like compare it to what we were saying about Fall Out Boy earlier, and how it's like, if you played music in that genre, they were like, yeah, it's like Fall Out Boy, but this thing, you know what I mean? Whereas after Riot, you started to see more pop punk bands with female vocalists, and every time still to this day, if you see a band with a female vocalist, if you go like through the YouTube comments on their music, you're going to be like, oh, it's like Paramore. Like, you're going to see the word Paramore in there somewhere.
For sure.
Because that's how influential like that album was specifically. Like, and I mean, it's obviously they've only blown up more since that one, but I mean, it's like, it's like they became that Fall Out Boy standard.
I think too, you know, and this just kind of came to me. I think about what kind of female vocalist do we have that kind of had an attitude, right? You know, or kind of had that kind of paved the way for a Paramore, right? A few come to mind. I definitely think Madonna, kind of the outlandish, theatrical approach to, and storytelling really to your performances. Combined with something like the attitude of like the Cranberries, right?
Yeah, I was thinking like Joan Jett.
Yeah, totally, like Joan Jett, or even something, a little more on the nose, like even, dare I say, Evanescence. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Evanescence for sure.
I mean, definitely.
Evanescence would have only been like 3-4 years before Riot even, like.
And I think around that time, people would have probably been looking for the next Evanescence, and I'm not saying that that's what Paramore was, but I think whenever you have this, teeny bopping redhead, fire redhead screaming into the microphone coming out, then with heavy rock music, you know what I mean? I think people weren't ready for it, I don't think. And I think it, again, is very important to the music scene, and not only to the pop punk genre, but just to rock music in general. I mean, their success kind of speaks for themselves, and good on them for the success they've had. I think it's awesome for sure. So, there were some mild critiques. How are you feeling? You as the heat kind of subsiding for you a little bit?
A little bit.
I'm
doing all right. I'm breathing.
Is the roof of your mouth swollen by chance?
It is not. It is not swollen.
Okay. It
didn't hit the roof. I did the unfortunate thing where when I ate it, I just pushed it straight to the back of my mouth, and so the back of my tongue on fire.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like it was like a sharp sensation in a couple spots.
Yeah, no, I have, this is, I think, the third or fourth episode we've done of hot. I almost said hot ones, takes. Excuse me. And each time it doesn't get any easier. So, we come to the point in the review, Chris, where we've kind of given our hot takes, we've given our reviews. Now we have to give, and here's the thing. I say this thing. This is like my mantra is like, oh, well, everyone's a wannabe, right?
Right.
No matter what you do, whatever success you find, I think no one is ever going to be satisfied, right? With the success, it's always going to be like, oh, well, I'm on to the next thing.
Satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. You know me? Yeah. Satisfied. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go listen to that.
So I always use this thing of like, well, we are all just wannabes. We're always going to be on that next thing. And we should always be looking for that thing that we're not good at to be better at. Right. And I mean, because then eventually whenever it does come to a thing of there's a gravitas attached to whatever it is that you're doing, you inherently have kind of a humble attitude. It's like, oh, I'm just a wannabe. And we're all just wannabes trying to figure out the best way to approach the next thing.
Right.
So I have to ask you, in your wannabe's honest opinion, out of 10, and no decimals allowed, because decimals are a cop out. I'm sorry, they are. Like, it's too easy. It's too easy to be like, I don't want to choose. Like, it's 0.5. No, we don't do that.
Yeah.
It's either one thing or another thing. Like, it's either you have to. You know what I mean? What do you give this record out of 10?
Commit to your reviews, you cowards.
Exactly. You heard it here.
Talking to you, IGN.
No kidding.
This record, I give it a solid, just 100% 9. I give it a 9 out of 10. You know what? I'm gonna back it up. I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10. It's great.
10 out of 10.
I'm giving it a solid 10 out of 10. It's like, even if there's, when we were talking about it earlier, there's like 2 tracks that I'm like, well, they're not like mega bangers, and that's incredible. We're talking about an album with 12 songs on it, so 10 of those are mega bangers. That's ridiculous. And I mean, it's just it's completely solid from front to back. Or I said 12, technically there's 11, because the version I'm looking at on Spotify has an acoustic version of Misery Business as well, which I highly recommend listening to. It's very good. And it's just, I mean, it was genre defining. This record led to bands that we now have, like Spirit Box and Stand Atlantic, and I mean, it's hard to overstate how influential this one was. And while some people can be like, well, I mean, yeah, sure, it was mega famous or whatever, it's like, I think a lot of people kind of forget like the impact that it first had. Like, there's a reason that it's as affluential as it is. And it's just, it's one of my favorite records of all time. I still listen to a good handful of these songs, like on an almost like weekly basis. Misery Business is actually my go-to warm-up song when I play drums. And it's just, yeah, I love this album to death. It's very good. 10
out of 10 from the RumblePack himself. Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love hearing your passion for the record, and it's one of those things, right, where there's always going to be that one guy that's like, yeah, like I get it, you know,
sure,
yada. But exactly. And I think the only thing that I really truly knock it for is it just echoes the first record in so many ways. And I get, you know, you're still kind of on the come up, right, of trying to get noticed. And where the first album didn't really have that X factor, right? This album does. For sure it does. And I mean, there's some awesome albums on here, or songs on here on this album, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
I think for me personally, I reserve 10 out of 10s for specific things. And I mean, for me, I think of, you know, whenever I think of a 10 out of 10, like I am thinking of like the Black Parade. I am thinking of like, you know, I am thinking of like American Idiot, you know, I think like genre defining. And I'm not saying that this record isn't, but just for me personally, it's hard for me to want to go that far. But
sure,
I will give it a 9 out of 10 because I think it's still, you could, I mean, there is only such a small difference between a 9 and a 10 out of 10, you know, and it's literally A, one person's opinion versus another person's opinion, and B, it is the minutia of what it is that separates it from being, you know, for me, it's not nearly perfect in my opinion, but for you, it may change that way. So for me, it's a 9. I still think it's amazing. So, there you have it. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Chris, we made it. We've through an episode of Hot Takes, and now you know what to expect whenever we do our next thing with Fonz.
Dear.
Yeah, you gotta do it again. You think you're gonna be able to talk about you know, the old you don't say the name of the band, but you think you'll be able to do it, or are you gonna have to opt out now?
No, I'll be able to do that because it's like, as much as I love this record, like the one that we're doing next is it even like I'm trying not to spoil anything. It means that much more to me, like even more so than like Paramore. Like this is a band in some of the stuff that we're going to be covering with them that is, I would say is, I mean, I would owe to just like kind of like me becoming the person that I am. Like it was like this band and the work that we're going to cover, it was so influential to me that it's if you thought I was real high on this one, you just wait.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun to talk to you and Fonz, because this is a band that I know very little about, and you guys are gonna be doing most of the talking on that one, you know,
which is great because I know
your sniveling eyes and and that's great. I mean, I feel it's kind of one of those things, like it's kind of like your Foo Fighters, you know, for me, like, because like Foo Fighters, I can talk all day about it, you know what I mean? And I'm legitimately excited for that. So
yeah, it's Chris, gonna be a real good time.
I can't thank you enough for stopping by. You know, we've been chatting for about an hour. We ate some spicy peppers. We've been talking about Paramore. We've been talking about all kinds of stuff, and it's been an absolute joy to have you on the show. So I can't thank you enough.
Hey, thank you for bringing me on, man. I mean, like we said earlier, we talked about this for so long. I'm so happy that we finally got to be able to sit down and make it happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one more time for good measure though, like let people know where they can find you.
Of course. If you somehow got to the end of this and you don't know who I am Chris, aka RumblePack 92. You can find me 2 to 4 times a week. I don't know why I said 3. That's not right. 2 to 4 times a week live on twitch.tv/RumblePack92. Of course, I'm also a co-host on the Waypoint Podcast, where you can find us youtube.com/Waypoint Podcast. I'm also on Twitter at RumblePack92, where you can come and I mean, I definitely have some takes, that's for sure, when I when I post on Twitter. So if you just want to interact with me directly, those 3 ways are the best way to do it, man. I'd love to talk to anybody, come and have a chat. I like video games and music, and that's I'd say about what the majority of my content is.
There you have it. I mean, that's well spoken. I mean, I have to say, it's one of those things too, because I'm a drummer too, right? And for me, it was like, whenever we kind of just started connecting on Twitter, it's like, this is cool. This guy seems cool. You know, I want to talk to this guy a little bit more about music and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And it's always fun to talk about stuff, because there was always that guy, right, in high school. Like I think about, okay, like Anthony Fantano, right? The music critic, the Melon. Can't stand that guy. I absolutely cannot stand him, because he reminds me of a point in time where that's exactly how I felt about music and thought I was like God whenever it came to music knowledge. And I've since loosened up, but there was always that one guy in high school that like acted exactly like him. And it's like, God, I just want to be able to talk to someone about music.
I've known a lot of Fantanos. Civilly
discuss your opinion, right? And find common ground. If you can't be reasonable and find common ground, get out. Like, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm not about that. And at the end of the,
just be good to each other, man.
Just be good to each other. You know what I mean? With whatever you're doing, just be nice. I mean, you can disagree with someone and still be nice.
We can disagree on music and still have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Chris. Thank you very much. And definitely go check out Chris on all of this stuff. As always, you know where to find me. I'm on Twitter at the Wannabe Critic, Instagram, the Wannabe Critic. You can follow our the actual page for the production house. It's just WBC Prod. You can follow it on Twitter as well as on Instagram. There's a ton of different projects that are linked down in the description below. I would appreciate it, if you would just go give it a click, like just go check it out. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Look, I'm gonna pull a Greg Miller. All right. If you're driving your car, you're already listening to the show. You've already made it this far through the freaking podcast. Pull your car over. Be safe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You've been listening for over an hour at this point. Why aren't? Come on, please. I could commit, please. Commit to the
subscribe. Hit the like button, you coward. Save it to your phone.
Thank you.
Go follow him on. Are you on Spotify?
Yes.
Go save it on Spotify. Go follow him on Twitter. You ain't doing anything with your time anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
You're inside.
I need Chris to have a segment on every show now where he just yells at you. You know what I mean?
Just berate people for not following.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, because he'll do it. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I look forward to having you back. So before we go, say goodbye.
Sorry, audio listeners. It was all visual, but I love you.
Well, whatever possessed you to check out any of the content that you saw today, I just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If you check the description down below, you'll see that there's a variety of different projects that I'm associated with. This is Wannabe Critic Productions after all. So I just wanted to say, if you enjoyed what you saw today, consider giving some of those other projects a chance as well. There's a lot of stuff that I'm a part of that that I do. If you were here for me or for someone else that you saw today, again, just thank you for checking it out, and I hope to see you again. But until next time, I'm Gabriel Fast, and I'll always be the Wannabe Critic.